Good morning. Welcome to the Washington Ethical Society. I am Nicole Beck. My pronouns are she, her, and I am your officiant for the first time today. Thank you very much. WES is one community unified across time and space, gathering for these Sunday platforms to affirm our values and commit to a better world. So I want to welcome those of you who are here in the hall, those who are watching now on Zoom, and those who are catching the recording later. If you are on Zoom, please check in the chat for a welcome and various tips from Joe Klein, today's Zoom chat usher. And if you're here in the hall and would like an assistive listening device, please ask the sound team in the back. A special welcome to our visitors today. We'd love to get to know you and answer any questions that you have. To get on our email list, you can fill out the connection form at tiny.cc/wesconnects or send an email to wes@ethicalsociety.org. And if you're here in person, we invite you to stop by the welcome table after platform or just chat up anybody with a printed name badge. Now let me check the Zoom chat to see who's attending remotely this morning. Well, we got a lot of people saying hello. We've got good morning from Lewisburg, Pennsylvania from Patty. Good morning everyone from Jeff. Good morning from Susan Ewing. And Alex Abbott, Bonnie Johnson, Karen. Oh, thank you to everybody who's saying I'm looking good. Appreciate you. That's sweet. All right. Our platform theme for the month of February is inclusion, and we're continuing our social justice theme this quarter with a focus on hospitality and the stranger. Please turn to your neighbors and say hello, introducing yourself to anyone that you don't know. More? Okay. Whoop. Close enough. All right. Thank you for extending that warm welcome to everyone. It's good to connect and share this time together. Our opening words this morning are from a poem called Allowables by Nikki Giovanni. I killed a spider, not a murderous brown recluse or even a black widow. And if the truth were told, this was only a small, sort of papery spider who should have run when I picked up the book. But she didn't, and she scared me, and I smashed her. I don't think I'm allowed to kill something because I am frightened. Today's opening song is Ring the Bells.
Notice, play no instrument. And I am a nightmare to accompany. So we're going to, realize that the original instrument was our voices, and we're just going to be happy that there's going to be voice, okay? Some of the songs today have an incredible humanist bent, but some of them also include that dreaded G word, just so you know, but I think it fits the platform theme, so. Ring, ring the bells, wake the town, everyone is sleeping, shout at the crowds, wake them up, this anger's deeper than sleep. Got to keep awake to what is happening. I can't see a thing. Through my ambition, I no longer feel that God is watching over me. Got to tell the world of what I'm dreaming. This is not the end, a new beginning. I no longer feel my God is watching over me. Break the code. Concentrate, let the door swing open, see through all our walls, all our flaws. Now I'm in deeper than sleep. Got to keep awake to what is happening. I can't see a thing through my ambition. I no longer feel that God is watching over me. Got to tell the world of what I'm dreaming. This is not the end, a new beginning. I no longer feel my God is watching over me. And when you let me fall through my own wings, now I'm as tall as these skies. And when you let me drown, I grew gills and fins. Now I'm as deep as these seas. And when you let me die, my spirit's free. There's nothing challenging me. Ooh, ooh, ooh,
Each week, we read our statement of purpose as a reminder of our shared values. If you're interested in taking a turn to read the statement of purpose, you can sign up at tiny.cc/readsop. Today's reader is Sam Wen. Sam is a member of the WES Chorus and the tech team.
The Washington Ethical Society is a humanistic congregation that affirms the worth of every person. We strive through our relationships to elicit the best in the human spirit. With faith in human goodness, we appreciate each person's unique capacities. We joyfully celebrate together and support each other through life. We nurture a sense of reverence and responsibility for each other and the earth. We warmly invite you to join our community of children and adults as we work for a world where love and justice cross all borders.
Thank you, Sam. As Sam lights our community candle, I invite everyone to join in our candle lighting words. May we kindle within us the warmth of compassion, the light of understanding, and the fire of commitment to build a brighter future for all. Let us now enter into the centering time of our platform, led by Judy Myers.
I invite you to take a moment to adjust your body and find a comfortable position. Take a few deep breaths if that's comfortable for you. In and out. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Take a moment to really notice how this feels, the sensation in and out at whatever pace your body needs. Notice your mind, your thoughts. Our minds wander and worry and distract us. The aim is not to stop them. That's impossible. There's no off switch. Just accept whatever is there. Thoughts come and go. They're simply automatic brain activity. And it's natural to get distracted. It's absolutely normal and human. You're not doing anything wrong. If you find yourself getting caught up in thoughts, no problem. Just be aware this is happening and gently bring your attention to your breath. And be wherever you are. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. We continue our centering time in silence and the music that follows.
Stray cats with the fish heads, feeding their litters. Feral kids fight over rat's tail from gutters. Bookie mouth brokers, rotten fruit sellers. Pickpockets goes through the crowd. He climbs onto boxes by market stall traders. Toothless and gray-haired, 1,000-yard stare. He had a vision which broke the receiver. Receiving transmission, surface to air either way. I'm in awe of you. Either way, we survive. Conjuring devils, angels, and demons, only the children see shape to his tone. Laughing and crying, his song fell upon us. He buried his treasure along with his bones. Arms held aloft, wide of the sky, innocent witness, he testified. Drained of his purpose, he falls off the quayside, absorbed by the ocean, rolled by the tide either way. I'm in awe of you. Either way, we'll survive. We'll survive. Under the power lines which crackle and sparkle, under the freeway, now mostly rubble, the hungry still gather to fill up with stories of monsters and heroes and men. Under the stars which prick us and call us, connect us to hope that perfection's within us, here on the ground, reckless and hopeless, damned by the slip of a pen. Rambling poets, manic with vision, we are the drivers and yet we feel driven. Moths in the moonlight, fooled by a flashlight, caught in the jam jar, gasping for air. Rambling poets, manic with vision, we are the drivers and yet we feel driven. Moths in the moonlight, fooled by a flashlight, caught in the jam jar, gasping for air. Rambling poets, manic with vision, we are the drivers and yet we feel driven. Moths in the moonlight, fooled by a flashlight, caught in the jam jar, gasping for air either way. I'm in awe of you. Either way, we'll survive. We'll survive.
Today's reading is from Alice Walker's collection of essays, Living by the Word. Some periods of our growth are so confusing that we don't even recognize that growth is what's happening. We may feel hostile or angry or weepy and hysterical, or we may feel depressed. It would never occur to us unless we stumble on a book or a person who explained it to us that we were, in fact, in the process of change, of actually becoming larger spiritually than we were before. Whenever we grow, we tend to feel it, as a young seed must feel the weight and inertia of the earth as it seeks to break out of its shell on its way to becoming a plant. Often the feeling is anything but pleasant. But what is most unpleasant is the not knowing what is happening. Those long periods when something inside ourselves seems to be waiting, holding its breath, unsure about what the next step should be. Eventually, these become the periods we wait for it is those periods that we realize that we are being prepared for the next phase of our life, and that in all probability, a new level of the personality is about to be revealed. Our platform speaker today is Amy Foltz.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amy, and I'm filling in this morning for Adam Briskin-Limehouse, who is sick. So I'm a little nervous. Please bear with me. Ooh. And today, I'd like to tell you a story. Did the clicker go? There we go. So, I was born in 1997. I spent the first 20 years of my life in the evangelical church. And considering what's going on in the world right now, I think it's important and interesting for us here at WES to know a little bit about what it's like to grow up in and eventually leave that movement. So let me give you a little backstory. My parents joined the evangelical movement when I was still in diapers because they were disillusioned with the Methodist Church's tendency to allow women in positions of leadership. They joined a church in my hometown that was built on a street called Narrow Lane. They built that street and named it Narrow Lane because small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. I don't want to call this a cult, so I'll let you make your determination about that when I'm done today. Growing up, my entire life was centered around the church. My church ran a K through 12 school, so from kindergarten through 12th grade, I was in church. 5 days a week at school, twice a day on Sunday, Wednesday night Bible study, Saturday evening house church, constant. And you might be wondering, Amy, what does it even mean to be evangelical? That's a great question. Evangelicals take the Bible literally. I learned that every single word of it was 100% literal and inerrant, which means perfect. There's no mistakes, no flaws, directly from the mouth of the big guy himself. We would literally use the term, Scripture is God-breathed. Evangelicals also believe that sharing the good news is a mandate. You must go into the whole world and make disciples. Evangelize. They take it pretty seriously. We would pester anyone within earshot about how good it was to be saved. Saved from what, though? Evangelicals believe in a very literal hell. I remember being in Sunday school as a young child, being shown videos about what hell looked like, what it felt like, encouraged to imagine the flame and the horror and the separation from God that all sinners would feel someday. I was baptized at the age of 10 because the nightmares this doctrine gave me kept me awake at night. We believe that almost everyone, every person who was ever born almost, would end up burning for all eternity. Remember that narrow path to salvation? Your time was short to get on the straight and narrow. But why was it so short? Evangelicals are apocalyptic. Whether it's the rapture or some other nightmare scenario where God looks down on the earth on a random Tuesday and decides to peel the sky open and rain down his fire and judgment. There's a big emphasis on eschatology, a word that no 9-year-old has any business knowing, which means the study of the end times. Evangelicals overwhelmingly believe that we are living through the end of days, which is why they don't care about climate change, by the way. But more than anything, though, evangelicals believe in black and white. There are no shades of gray in the evangelical world. Everything can be classified as sinful or holy, and that includes people. You are expected to be on fire for Christ. And we would even say that being a lukewarm Christian was worse than never being a Christian at all. So the question I'm sure you're asking is, why am I here? How did I get on this stage? Well, like I said, Adam was sick this morning. But no, it's another great question. You guys are with it this morning. I was raised to be an obedient soldier in the Lord's army, there's a lot to unpack there. But the story starts to get interesting when I was about 19 and I learned about evolution for the first time. It's every evangelical child's terrifying test of faith. I had to leave the fold for a few days a week to venture into the belly of hell itself. Biology 101 at a local community college. I had been prepared for this moment from a very young age because you see, when you're an evangelical kid who grows up loving science, you don't get Bill Nye, the evolution guy. You get Ken Ham and Kent Hovind, the creationists. They taught me to be terribly cheeky in my biology class. If a test asked me to talk about the age of the Earth, I was told, you should write, the answer you're looking for is 4.5 billion years old, but the Bible teaches me that it is 6,000 years old. I was a little too scared of getting a bad grade to actually do this, and even worse, reading the science book was actually pretty convincing. If you could imagine. It turned out the more books I got access to, the more I questioned my faith. It wasn't just science, it was history, philosophy, and religion too. I think I had just about figured out the real reason the Civil War happened in the interesting year of 2016. Now, I don't know what your 2016 was like, but let me tell you, it was a weird time to be an evangelical teenager. If I repeated all of the horrible things I heard from the pulpit and from my community, we would be here all day. And you can ask me another time if you've got a strong stomach for bigotry. The open-armed embrace of Donald Trump by the evangelical church was a shock to my family. Even my parents, who had been faithful members of the church for 20 years, felt appalled by the lack of morals and the open depravity of that man. My mother's line in the sand was that Trump owns casinos. And according to her, real Christians don't profit off of addiction. I can respect that about my parents. They had a line in the sand and they stuck by it. My husband Joseph and I would start dating a couple months from then, but we bonded over our mutual horror at looking at the people we looked up to and trusted. We'd known our whole lives. The people who taught us that loving your neighbor was the most important commandment in the Bible. And we saw them fall for what seemed like a clear test of their Christian principles. It was a lot to take in. And in addition to the national chaos, that same year in 2016, a local scandal rocked my small community. My church's youth minister was sentenced to prison for sexually abusing a friend of mine, who was a minor, for years. I decided I needed to get out. That next fall, I transferred to a state school to finish my degree, and in that time, I felt like I was in a free fall. All I had ever learned was the evangelical worldview. I didn't know anyone outside of the faith. I didn't know how to talk to people who didn't grow up steeped in that culture. And I also felt like my understanding of the world was unraveling. I wasn't sure I believed in God anymore. And that used to be the most important part of my identity. For 20 years, I believed that my soul, my salvation, where I would spend eternity, relied on a faith that was turning to ash in my hands. No one ever told me how lonely it would be to lose your faith, how much it felt like grieving a death. And after spending a fair amount of time at the bottom of a bottle during college, I decided to go to therapy. Evangelical Christianity never gave me the joy and peace it promised it would, but neither did the nihilistic spiral of atheism I found myself in. It was hard getting out of bed because everything just felt so pointless. If no one created me, and no one ever heard the 2 decades of prayer I had offered, why did I even exist, is how I felt. Deconstructing the faith that was forced upon me felt like weeding a garden until there was nothing left alive inside of me. I decided I needed to plant something new. But what, dear WES members, what could possibly take the place of a faith community without the harmful beliefs and toxic behavior? You know, there's this little place on 16th Street near Silver Spring. And we found WES, and life is better now. So now's the part of my talk today where I'm going to share some takeaways from the EX-vangelical experience. And I'm going to start with something a little controversial, but hear me out. Here are some things I think WES can learn from the evangelical church. Number 1, organizing and focus. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a bit of a hostile takeover happening right now in our country. And let me be very clear. Evangelicals are an unpopular minority in this country. Less than 1/3 of Americans regularly attend any religious services, let alone Christian ones. Less than 1/4 of Christians are evangelical. So how is it that they're always up in our business and they're gaining ground? There's no use in mincing words here. Evangelicals get shit done. They are laser-focused and highly motivated. They hit their talking points over and over ad nauseum, whether or not those points are grounded in reality. They know how to energize their base and weaponize fear and get people who wouldn't otherwise participate in their goals fired up. I'll use the example of abortion rights. Except in the most extreme circles, evangelicals aren't doing their supervillain speeches about how much they want to suppress women and people who are capable of getting pregnant. No, they're saying, we are saving millions of babies from murder and repeating it over and over until the facts don't matter anymore. And I don't say this to mean we need to make up things. We actually don't, because the facts are on our side. Imagine the power our voice would have if we could rally around climate change action with that same fervor that anti-choice advocates have. Because guess what? A higher percentage of people say that climate change needs to be our number 1 priority than people who go to church every week. We've got the numbers. The next one is evangelizing. Scary word. Oh. Evangelizing. When I say that we would pester anyone within earshot about Jesus, I really meant it. I still get people asking me to come to their Bible studies and see if I'm saved. And on this point, I have to admit, we are on our back foot. After all, you can't really say that if you miss a Sunday at WES, your salvation is in jeopardy. And that's good. I love the fact that we give one another the space to disconnect and recharge. But I want us to be brave about sharing the benefits of a community like this. We should be proud of everything we've built here. And frankly, it's more impressive because we don't, for the most part, believe we're getting any kind of divine assistance in this. We build this community, we take care of one another, and we do it because we simply believe that it is the right thing to do. I think it's fair to say that I am more on fire for humanism than I ever was for the Lord. That's about as much televangelizing as I'm going to do today. You can take the girl out of the evangelical church, but you can't stop me from getting a little hellfire and brimstone energy every once in a while. So now I want to talk about some of the best things at WES. These are the things I think we absolutely sweep the evangelical church in. No doctrine, dogma, or orthodoxy. Y'all are so much more chill than evangelicals, it's crazy. We don't spend entire days arguing about whether you can wear hats in the room where platform happens. We don't spend years of time debating the godly role of women in our community. We accept new perspectives with open arms and a flexibility that is an impressive strength. That being said, disagreements are welcome. We disagree sometimes, and that was a culture shock. I remember the first couple of times that we came to WES, Joseph and I were a little mortified by the idea of community sharing. Because you know what? That would never work in an evangelical church, not in 6,000 years. The first time someone got up and said, "Casey, I actually disagree with something you said today." That took me a week to recover from. You can't disagree with the preacher, you'll get punished. Socially ostracized. Nowadays, though, community sharing is one of my favorite things that we do here. Respectful disagreements are a sign of a healthy relationship and community. And I even do it myself sometimes, partially just to prove that women belong on stage. We deserve to share the microphone and have our voices be heard. This next one is really important to me. We treat our young people like they're people. There's an overwhelming pattern of thought in conservative circles that children are nothing more than an extension of their parents. Almost property. They shelter them from just about everything, including science and history and the fact that LGBTQ+ people have always existed and we will continue to exist no matter what they feel. Children are expected to comply with their parents or be punished. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Or, as the head evangelist at my church used to say, break their will when they're 2, and they won't break your heart when they're 15. We don't do that here. And that is a testament and strength to our community, that we said that is not acceptable anytime, any place. When I look through the WES Library and I see the resources our kids and teens get access to, and I see how they are treated by all of you, it honestly makes me tear up if I think about it too much, because I know how profoundly that knowledge would have helped me when I was a kid, because I know how badly I wanted to understand the world around me, only to be told that my questions sounded too much like doubt, and I needed to focus on fitting in and making the faith work. WES's youth have the beautiful opportunity to learn who they are and know that it will be celebrated by everyone here. This next one's a little more lighthearted. More than one book. Imagine that. A fun fact about me is that I read the Bible cover to cover, Genesis through Revelations, about a dozen times when I was 18. They just don't give you that many other options. Even the textbooks I had included biblical application chapters in math textbooks. I was even a part of a competitive Bible memorization team. We don't have time to unpack all that, but you should ask me about it sometime because TLC actually did a TV show about it. And it's so weird, y'all. But since being at WES, I have learned so very much about the world and philosophy and history and music, politics, science, and the fullest spectrum of humanity just by being a part of this community. I get so many cool and thoughtful recommendations from you all that I think I'm going to be spending the rest of my life discovering everything I can. And speaking of rediscovering, discovery and depth. Mine and Joseph's favorite thing in the world is rediscovering Christian aphorisms organically. These are just the sayings that were on rote and constantly repeated. I used to hear them all the time. And I was just a kid, so I never really understand the depths and universality that some of these sayings truly have. One time, Casey, Joseph, and I were talking a little bit after recording Ethically Sourced the podcast, which y'all should check out. And Casey said something along the lines of, if every person's essence or soul is like a different gemstone all tumbling around together, we're trying to polish one another and make each other shine. And Joseph and I exchanged a shit-eating grin and said, so as iron sharpens iron, so another person sharpens another? Which is a verse from the Bible, if you're from, I think, Isaiah. It's been a while since I've read that book again, but... Or I could talk about the verse in the book of Mark that inspired the title of my talk today. For what shall it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? I'm not a man, so I don't think I'm in jeopardy of that. I could bombard you with a couple dozen of these fun discoveries that I've come to treasure because it feels like reclaiming a piece of my soul that evangelicalism tried to stifle. But we don't have all morning, and you can always ask me out for some coffee. But I want to leave off this morning with my favorite rediscovery. We are part of the world. I used to hear this saying all the time. Christians need to be in the world, but not of the world. If I were to WESify this statement, I might charitably say that we could use this as a reminder to not get lost in the day-to-day stress of the world, the news, and maybe practice a little mindfulness. But evangelicals basically use this saying to say, stay inside and stop being so gay. What I love about WES is that we are in this world, for better or for worse. We care about what happens to this world because we know that what happens here, what happens to our neighbors, happens to us too. I am done blocking out the world to focus on whatever happens in a theoretical afterlife. And frankly, I'm tired of pretending like the world is about to end. The world is here. I am here. And I'm here with you. And we have work to do. Thank you.
I mean, once again for Amy, come on. You got me tearing up. I'm supposed to be officiating. Thank you so much. All right, in a few minutes, we're going to have our community sharing time when you can write into the chat or share in person about what resonated with you in this platform. While we listen to today's musical response, you may want to prepare your reflecting on a personal experience or an activity at WES that the platform brings to mind. Please distill your thoughts to a single idea so that you can share in 1 to 2 minutes. And if you've spoken in recent weeks, please leave space today for others to share. And if you have many thoughts, please save them for after the platform when you are encouraged to find someone you don't already know very well, maybe someone you don't know at all, and strike up a conversation. And now our musical response.
This was written in the early to mid 90s and has a word that it's probably not as accepting as we would know now, just putting that out there. So, Ophelia drowned in the water, crushed by her own weight, and Hitler loved little blue-eyed boys, and it drove him to hate. And birds always grow silent before the night descends, 'cause nature has a funny way of breaking what does not bend. A hero's torso built of steel and Novocaine, his heart a bitter beat inside a bloodless frame. There was a hole inside his soul a manicure couldn't fill, so he found himself a whore to love while daisies choked in the windowsill.
We've made houses for hatred. It's time we make a place where people's souls may be seen and made safe. Be careful with each other, these fragile flames, for innocence can't be lost. It just needs to be maintained. Small town in Ohio, 2 boys are filled with violence, and night spreads its legs for hate and ignorance. We are given into a God to put our faith therein, but to be forgiven we must first believe in sin. We've made houses for hatred. It's time we make a place where people's souls may be seen and made safe. Be careful with each other, these fragile flames, for innocence can't be lost. It just needs to be maintained. Some like the Yankees, some like the Mets. Me, I like Red Sox, but only on pets. I want to live bravely and love without fear. I want always to feel the wings of grace near. We all will be Christed when we hear ourselves say, we are that to which we pray. We've made houses for hatred. It's time we make a place where people's souls may be seen and made safe. Be careful with each other, these fragile flames, for innocence can't be lost. It just needs to be maintained.
Thank you, Julie. This is the time when we add our own voices to the morning, sharing our reflections on the platform or what resonated with our personal experience. For our online participants, I invite you to share in the Zoom chat or in the comments if you're watching the recording later. If you're here in the hall and would like to share a brief comment, 1 to 2 minutes, you can come up now and form a line on the ramp. When it's your turn at the mic, please begin with your name and pronouns, and when you finish, please use the ramp to return to your seat. Start with the Zoom comments. So we've got Mark Meyer says, absolutely one of the best platforms I have ever heard. I will listen to this again. Jeff Mehall says, you knocked it out of the park, Amy, but I'd be willing to talk to you about bigotry because I don't think one can understand it without having been raised in it. John Klein says, absolutely terrific platform, excellent speaker and topic. As someone raised in essentially the diametric opposite of what was described in the platform, this was fascinating for me. Lindsay Lucky says, hello from Boston, everyone. Nicole and Amy, wow, wonderful platform. Thank you so much. And Cynthia Goodman says, great presentation, Amy. I have a better understanding of the religious zealots like evangelicals who always have baffled me. You have made a difficult and wonderful transition to humanism. Kudos to you.
Hello, my name is Peter. He, his, him. I grew up as a third-generation humanist, but I didn't know this until after I became a graduate student in college. As I was a sophomore in college, it turns out I became a Pentecostal for 1 week. When I discovered that my personal relationship with God entailed just talking to myself, that's when I realized that I was not a Pentecostal. But then 2 years later, my mother came up to me and she said, I think I've got something here that you might be interested in. Behold, I have forsaken in my heart the deities of all my ancient kin. The arks they carved are molded, strewn apart. No present faith may be contained therein. And I, who have forsaken in my heart all deities, do hereby pledge my soul unto the faith that we ourselves can chart by reason's light, the path that will control the forces of destruction, Make whole our lovely earth and all her wounded lives. I grasp the arms of all who share this goal, who dare believe it real. To solemnize this oath, I swear it by the light behind their eyes.
Hi, I'm Loretta. I was raised sort of similarly, but in a different religion, a Catholic church. And I went for 12 years there too until I went to a secular college. And it really bothered me. I was all through most of those 12 years, it really bothered me that there were things like we were told if you ate meat on Friday, you'd go to hell. And hell was burning, or miss mass on Sunday, you burn. And now you could go to confession. You get you'd get over it for a while, and then you do your penance, and then just do it again, I guess. But then I went to college. Unlike you, it was secular, and I was an English major, but I minored in philosophy and psychology, and those are wonderful things to open your eyes to the rest of the world and the things that other people believe that you don't. And I said, wait a minute. But I was still Catholic, and I went to Newman Club, and I went to took classes, and I was fine until I was a junior, and decided to take this class in philosophy by an atheist professor who was going to be leaving the next year. And this was the last semester he was going to teach. So I was going to take this class, and I was going to convert him. I had studied Thomas Aquinas. I knew all this stuff. So I started, but a couple days before the class started, he had the textbook. So I read the textbook, and I wrote all through it rebuttals to all the stuff in his textbook. Get into the class, and he says at the very beginning, he said, to get an A in this class, you are either going to have to believe it, or either believe it, or you're going to have to lie. So I didn't quite understand until I took a test, and sure enough, the way he worded things, you either had to believe it or you had to lie. And at first time, I kind of lied. I kind of believed. I wasn't sure. But then as we went through and coming to the end of the class, I was gradually moving to believe what he said. And the day before our last class, I stayed up all night and reread his book. And all of a sudden, I was sobbing. I said, holy cow, I do believe this. And I took the test, and I did get an A, and I didn't lie.
Hi, I'm Tom, he, him. One thing that I thought there was I wanted to emphasize when I came up was that you mentioned about books. And this is something that's been on my mind quite a bit lately, even before the election, where I'm like, there's some books I've been wanting to read that are more impartial views of history and that sort of thing, what's taken place on this continent and that sort of thing. But with the election and seeing how our media is so controlled by so few people, your digital downloads aren't really yours. They're just access to the book. You don't really have it. And we're seeing these monopolistic companies already voluntarily complying with restrictive things. They're dropping their DEI initiatives. The censoring is already seeping in different places, censoring. And so it reminded me that in this day and age, the printed word is still a light in the darkness. And so I have redoubled my efforts to start looking for some books I've been wanting and getting hard copy, new or used, keeping an eye out in thrift stores and whatnot, because these things are I'm concerned the possibility exists these things could disappear or be hard to find, or at least not conveniently through an Amazon or Kindle or whatever conglomerate service we all end up using. So I just wanted to mention that books are essential, and I think they're going to be very important again, the printed word. Thank you.
Hey y'all, Robin, she, her pronouns. So I wanted to share a little story that Amy inspired. So in first grade, I was in Sunday school at the Catholic church where my mother informed me I would be going every Sunday. And we were learning about creation. And we got to the verse about dinosaurs. And I, being a lover of dinosaurs, if you've been in my office, there's like a few triceratops, velociraptors, stuffed animals in there. And I said, this doesn't make any sense. We didn't live with dinosaurs. And the two nuns who taught my class escorted me out into the hallway and then turned around, went back into the classroom and closed the door and left me as a first grader alone in the hallway, basically being told, you're asking questions. That's not okay. And I just remember being like, who's scared to answer a question? Like, I was a little mouthy child, probably deeply shocked. And I walked down the hallway because, again, who leaves a first grader alone? And I meandered to the priest's office because why not? I had questions. And Father Breen looked at me and he said, Robin, if you question, you're not faithful. You can't question God. And I said, I can't not question. And he said, we're going to have to agree to disagree. And to this day, I remember he was the Father Breen led me through my entire Catholic experience. Very good human. And to this day, as an adult, I have a very hard time balancing that first grader Robin conversation with the man who opened the first needle exchange in Nashville. And I still don't know how to balance that. But I think hearing stories like Amy's, realizing the brainwashing is so deep, I don't think he intended the brainwashing. I think that's all he knew. And so that's how I'm going to walk away trying to balance Father Breen, who opened the first needle exchange in Nashville, with the man who told me not to ask questions.
Hello, I'm Gerald, he, him pronouns. You'll have to forgive me if I meander a bit because religious trauma is both fascinating to me and difficult to think about sometimes. Thank you, Amy, for your amazing talk. I had kind of a similar upbringing, wasn't nearly as competitive with the memorization and all of that, but the conviction and the literal truth of the Bible was very real, and that resonates with me a lot. I've come to WES several times over the past year or so, and I wanted to share what I think is another important distinction between the church and a place like WES, because it relates to a resentment that I am currently working through. Thank you to my therapist. So, along with all of the sorts of things that Amy was talking about, I think one of the things I learned, one of the habits that I formed growing up in the church, one of the assumptions that I learned to make about myself was that you're kind of never good enough. You can get better if you're like devoted and maybe a little bit lucky. You can improve. But like only if you manage to like do the work of getting saved and to do that correctly, maybe at the end of your life you'll go to heaven and you'll be perfect then. And that's not cool. But that stands in stark contrast to, like I remember, I think it was maybe several weeks ago now by this point, but Casey gave a platform on the notion of authenticity and the importance of seeing the inherent value in yourself, no matter how weird or different or questioning, doubtful you might be. Every person has inherent value and is just by virtue of being a person worthy of love. And that's always a good reminder.
Hi, I'm Roberta. And okay, so when I was in high school, I was studying European history, and I found out about humanism. I said, oh, that's what I am. That's what I want. But what do you do with that? However, I just continued going on. And I grew up in a household which was Jewish, but we were always questioning things. And whatever happened in my grandparents' house did not happen in our house, etc. So then, after in college, I started going to different churches. And subsequently in Colorado, I had a friend I met at university, and she went to Bob Jones University, and I went to this service, and I didn't understand what was going on, and all this God stuff. By that time, I was really inured to God, so it didn't really matter. But then they had, you get your wine, and then little thimbles, and it wasn't even wine, it was grape juice. So I said, wow. However, I mean, I was beyond the pale. Anyhow, lastly, I had a friend who was an artist also, and I used to model for her. And her father was a Baptist minister, and she's telling me this story that one time her father's minister did not do hellfire and brimstone, but the other man didn't, and he really shook her. So she went to see her father, and as she told me, she said, am I a devil? And he said, no, you're an angel. And then she turned around and said, you're an angel. So I am very much an angel. And so I just want you to know, maybe fallen, but an angel.
Hi, I'm Sue, she, her. Thank you, Amy. It's really good to get a better understanding of what it's like to grow up in an evangelical home. My background is different. My heritage is Jewish, but when I was 4, the little boy next door told me, you always have to be good because God is always watching you and God knows everything you do. So I asked my parents about that, and they said, well, some people believe that. And then in September, right before I turned 5, I started Sunday school at the Westchester Ethical Society. So I was brought up to be agnostic and to decide, they wouldn't tell me there is, or my parents wouldn't say there is or isn't a God. It was for me to figure out what I believed, which was fine. I didn't believe in God. And then I got to college at the University of Wisconsin, and in the dorm there were a lot of nice Lutheran kids, and some of them told me, Sue, if you don't believe in Jesus, you'll go to hell. Well, of course, I never believed that, but an awful lot of people did, and I went through a stage later when I prayed and said, God, if you're there, I'd like to, nothing. So eventually, when I moved to DC, it was wonderful to walk into WES and know I was home.
I'm rounding us out, I think. Great. Thank you, Amy. Reed, she, hers. Like so many of you, I grew up Catholic. I think we need like a recovering Catholics club here. We all have some shared trauma. I went to Catholic school from preschool to 12th grade as well, so additional layers to unpack. I want to call out something that Robin said, which is this balance between loving deeply people in your life who believe something so strongly that you disagree with, and seeing them as whole people and respecting their beliefs while also challenging things that they may share that you fundamentally disagree with. And that cognitive dissonance followed me through high school and continues to follow me today. in politics and religion, people I care about so deeply believing different things from me. And there's not really a point to this because I haven't quite figured out what I believe yet. But I just wanted to call out that, I think it's important to understand that, people disagree with you, have faith that you don't have, and they are inherently bad for that. They can believe things that we don't believe. I know we don't like the G word here, but I don't think it's inherently bad to believe in the G word. So just wanted to call that out because I think we have a tendency sometimes to put down people who have faith and who have religion in a way that we don't have religion. And I think that is feeding into negativity that we don't want to be doing. So, yeah.
I see that we have some representatives from our Seek classes here to share what they've been doing this morning, so I'd invite them to come on up.
This is the mighty 6th through 8th grade crew today. Our theme today is imagination, and we talked about the idea of doing a great thing, or a big thing, I should say, usually takes a lot of small steps, and the imagination that it takes to do it one step at a time, but knowing that you're getting towards something big at the end. And we looked at that through the lens of climate justice and injustice, and a group of 10 different people who have come to the climate justice or injustice in different ways, and how they sort of imagine their role and how their own desires mix with the global desire of justice or injustice. So I'll leave it to the gang here to expand on that.
Okay, so the people, they were like little short stories, and we both read 5, but the people in these stories are so uneducated about climate change. Like, it's not even funny. But there's this one that stuck out to me. It was this, I guess like the CEO of an airline, and he was talking about how flying affects climate change so much, and it produces so much greenhouse gases. While also, if he were to say don't fly because it's bad for the earth, he would lose clients, money. Then he wouldn't be able to pay his shareholders or employees what they deserve to be paid. And that's where the ethical part comes in.
Yeah, and not on the climate aspect, but the imagination. Not giving any spoilers, but me and Ellie are working on the new youth room. So we're gonna redecorate it, paint it to make it all ages friendly. And so we were all coming up with ideas, and thinking about what things we couldn't do, what things we could do, and how to make it like fit all ages, which was pretty hard. But we've gotten it kind of ready, and we are both just trying to figure it out and work on it. And then in the climate aspect, the 5 I read, most of them had the common theme of oil, and that is also a 50-50 because it's a big energy source for a lot of people, but also it really hurts the climate. So what do we do, and how do we do it safely and move on without hurting some people? And but if you go to one side, the other side will get hurt, vice versa. So that's pretty hard, and we have to figure out what we're gonna do next instead of hurting more people than we do help.
And they said their imagination would be helped with further donations to help outfit the youth room.
All right. Great. So just as we share our perspectives in this community, so too do we share our resources and gifts. As a part of WES stewardship, we split all undesignated gifts in the Sunday collection between our operating budget and a fund dedicated to justice and compassion. Throughout the month of February, we will be sharing with CASA Maryland. CASA is committed to moving forward immigration reform in Maryland. CASA has also led and contributed to campaigns to pass meaningful police reform, tenants' rights, and worker protection legislation. With over 100,000 members, CASA will continue to demand real policy changes that will put the hundreds of thousands of immigrant families in Maryland into greater power, dignity, and legitimacy. Let's all take a moment to prepare to respond to the invitation to generosity as we are able. To donate online through the Breeze system, go to tiny.cc/wesgives or click on Give on our website, ethicalsociety.org. To donate in person today, just place cash or check in the basket as it is passed along the rows, and you can always mail a check to the office. Thank you for your generosity. We will now receive your gifts and the gift of music as we listen. Oh, no.
This was one of Caleb's lullabies when he was a kid, so
Yeah.
he's going to help me out with this one.
Yeah.
I sing myself to sleep, a song from the darkest hour, secrets I can keep inside of the day. I swing from high to deep, extremes of sweet and sour, hope that God exists. I hope, I pray, torn by the undertow, my life is out of control. I believe this wave will bear my weight, so let it flow. Oh, sit down, oh, sit down, oh, sit down, sit down next to me. Sit down, 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 in sympathy. Now I'm relieved to hear that you've been to some far out places. It's hard to carry on when you feel all alone. Now I've swung back down again. It's worse than it was before. If I hadn't seen such riches, I could live with being poor. Oh, sit down, oh, sit down, oh, sit down, sit down next to me. Sit down, 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 in sympathy. Those who feel a breath of sadness,
Sit down next to me.
those who find they're touched by madness,
Sit down next to me.
those who find themselves ridiculous,
Sit down next to me.
in love and fear and hate and tears, in love and fear and hate and tears, in love and fear and hate and tears, in love and fear and hate.
Down. Down.
Oh, sit down, oh, sit down.
Sit down next to me. Sit down, 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 in sympathy.
Thank you, Julie and Caleb. I want to mention a few opportunities to engage in the life of our community. As part of our annual pledge campaign, we'll be having a stewardship moment, a brief expression from the members of what they have found at WES that they haven't found elsewhere. The event is March 23rd, so save the date. And if you're not on the schedule this time, please feel free to share your experience during our sharing time. Today's moment is from Joe Klein. I'm sorry, excuse me.
Mimic Joe Klein.
Thank you, Joe.
This mic, that mic, this one. Okay. So this whole platform feels like an entire promotional campaign for WES. So if you aren't already thinking about tripling your pledge this year, I don't really know what I don't really know what I'm about to say that might convince you to do so, but I will add something perhaps. So most of you know that I'm a registered dietitian by training, which means that I have been trained to look critically at ingredients and to assess their ability to nourish. And so in my expert opinion, I can tell you that WES is made up of some really great stuff. You heard about much of it today already. But I'll say, I note a foundational philosophy that emphasizes interconnectivity, collective power, justice, and this month's theme, inclusion. A group of people who are smart and ambitious, which you expect in the DC metro area, but also some of the most thoughtful people that I have ever met, and creative, and willing to be vulnerable, and also filled with goodwill, which is not ubiquitous around the DMV. Also who don't take themselves too seriously, which is a really important element. Yeah. We also get the support and the spark from a leader who excels in scholarship, art, activism, and who blends all of those with a whole lot of love and humility, and again, humor. We also have the asset of this building and being located where we are in the center of our nation's politics. Is that lucky? No, that's a good thing. The potential of combining all of these ingredients to be something truly special is what drew me here now about 6 years ago. Over that time, I've witnessed how this combination results in meaningful platforms. Today was an exemplary example of that, is what I was about to say. Fun events and active member-led groups. But I think I'm actually most excited about what we will do with these ingredients in the near future in the face of the challenges to the values we hold dear that we're seeing now, and how we'll demonstrate what is so special about WES, and hopefully open the doors wider to let more people in to add their own special twists to the mix. Now, as we know, items that are made with high quality ingredients cost more. Yeah. So be extra generous with your pledge this year, knowing that from me, a trained professional, it's worth the investment. Thank you.
All right. All right, a couple more announcements. This Tuesday is the inaugural meeting of the new WES Film Club. Join Joseph I back in there at 6:30 in the social club, hopefully with some snacks for a screening of the movie First Cow, followed by a thoughtful discussion. Are you questioning or leaving religion, or have you already left a high control religious community and want to talk about the experience with people who understand? Join us every third Wednesday of the month after dinner during Wednesdays at WES, led by Amy, to share thoughtful discussions, questions, and support each other as we navigate life after living in intense religious communities. Are you curious about Discord but not sure where to start? Join Amy Foltz in the in the social hall for Discord 101 right after platform for a friendly step-by-step introduction to the online community space. They'll cover the basics of logging in, navigating channels, sending messages, and connecting with others. No tech experience is needed, just bring your questions and they'll take it from there. Anyone interested in becoming a member of WES can join our senior leader, Casey Slack, following next week's platform in the WES library to learn more about WES and see if it's a good fit for you. That's March 2nd. And a quick thank you from the coffee team to everybody who's been helping with cleanup of the coffee table so that it doesn't all fall on the team and the WES staff. If you haven't pitched in yet, maybe today's the day. Give it a try. Next Sunday, Casey Slack will be our speaker on the cultural production of evil with music from the DC Labor Chorus. And finally, a reminder about parking behind the building. The spaces to the right, the lower segment, are all reserved for Sunday for clergy, the auction winner, designated folks with mobility issues, and folks with a carload of stuff to drop off. That's it for announcements today. As always, you can find information about opportunities to connect in the weekly news and notes email and on the calendar page of WES's website, ethicalsociety.org. Thank you so much to the many people who helped create this morning's time together. Today's platform speaker, Amy Foltz, and Julie Grimes for our music. Also staff members Indara Miles, Robin Kravitz, and Maceo Tomitz. And of course, our platform production volunteers, the tech team members, the slide artists, the Zoom chat ushers, the in-person greeters, the caffeinator crew, and our dedicated Seek teachers. Again, if you are new to our community, please introduce yourself in person or via the connection form at tiny.cc/wesconnects or an email to wes@ethicalsociety.org. At the conclusion of the platform, please join us for the social hour either here or on Zoom at tiny.cc/wescoffeehour. I now invite you to join in our closing sing-along, Be a Light. Sure.
About the parking, say the lower area, is that the south area or the north? South.
Glad somebody knows.
So this is our 4th Sunday doing this. This means we can all sing along for sure. You know the song now, right? In a time full of war, be peace. In a time full of doubt, just believe. Yeah, there ain't that much difference between you and me. In a time full of war, be peace. In a world full of hate, be a light. When you do somebody wrong, make it right. Don't hide in the dark. You were born to shine. In a world full of hate, be a light. La 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 la. I was going to do that part, but yeah. In a place that needs change, make a difference. In a time full of noise, just listen. 'Cause life is but a breeze, better live it. In a place that needs a change, make a difference. In a world full of hate, be a light. When you do somebody wrong, make it right. Don't hide in the dark. You were born to shine. In a world full of hate, be a light. La 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 la. 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 In a race that you can't win, just slow it down. Yeah, you only get one go around. 'Cause the finish line is 6 feet in the ground. In a race you can't win, just slow it down.
In a world full of hate, be a light. When you do somebody wrong, make it right. Don't hide in the dark. You were born to shine. In a world full of hate, be a light. Yeah, it's hard to live in color when you just see black and white. In a world full of hate, be a light.
Before our closing words, just ask anybody who's able to, once the platform is finished, to help clear the chairs away, please. Thank you. All right, now for our closing words. Let us go into the week ahead with compassion, understanding, and commitment, using our actions and words to make our spaces safe and welcoming for all. Thank you all for joining today's platform in person or remotely. We look forward to connecting with you again soon.